You're listening to Talk LFC Podcast, an independent podcast for Reds by Reds. Be sure to hit that follow button.
Hello and welcome to Talk LFC Podcast. It's been quite a while since we did a podcast. It's been before the summer since we did our last one. We didn't do much over the summer months because, as some of you may know, I had quite a lot of family issues to deal with since last March. So my availability has been fairly sporadic. Unfortunately, my wife lost her dad, and all the stuff associated with that. Her mother's elderly, and of course, because she lives 30 miles away, we had quite a lot of stuff that we needed to do just to kind of deal with that side of things. So as I said, my time has been fairly minimal. So unfortunately, the podcast has taken a back seat. As well as that, I'm really the only one now that's kind of doing anything with the podcast. There are other people involved, but as I said, we all lead busy lives. So I've been doing most of the work on it anyway. So that's the reason nothing has been happening. There will be more content from now on. As I said, I'm going to be a lot more active. It is just me that will be doing the podcast from now on. We are looking for people to come on. Anyone who's interested in coming on, you're more than welcome. We'll give any fan who wants to come on and have a chat to give their views on Liverpool Football Club or anything that's associated with it, whatever we decide to discuss. You're more than welcome to come on and we can discuss stuff like that. So, but I suppose the point of today's podcast is to do a review of the match, and unfortunately, it's not exactly ideal to be doing our first match review on our first loss of the season. The game today against Man City is our first away loss since last February. And it comes at I suppose no loss comes at a good time, but it has come at a bad time. We're heading into a very important Champions League game on Tuesday night, and I genuinely did feel that we could get something from today's game, considering that we drew with them last year, 1-1 in the Etihad, and the type of football that we're playing at the moment. I did think we would concede, but I genuinely thought we would score and we would be a threat to them. As it proved, we actually were in the opening minutes of the match. But I suppose, let's look at the lineup first of all, and there were a few surprises. Well, there's a couple of non-surprises as well. Coutinho wasn't included in the starting lineup, but I think everybody kind of expected that he wouldn't be. And Klopp's reasoning behind that was because he hasn't played pre-season. He hasn't played football in the league so far. He played a couple of minutes, about 15, 20 minutes in 2 games for Brazil, so he wasn't up to match speed. Regardless of how you feel about whether he should or shouldn't play, Klopp decided that he wasn't going to be ready for today. So he actually didn't even travel with the team. He was in Melwood today training. So he wasn't starting, he wasn't in the lineup. But to start off, we had Mignolet in goal. We had Alexander-Arnold starting at right back. We had Matip in the centre of defence, and we actually had Ragnar Klavan, who came in for Dejan Lovren, who Klopp felt he played a lot of football over the last, between the international break and everything. So he decided that, because I suppose with Tuesday night coming up as well, he decided that Lovren shouldn't have started, even though Jamie Carragher was quite adamant that if it was him, he would have started him. On the left side of defence, we had Alberto Moreno. He's been good so far in the league. He's been kind of the surprise of the season so far in most people's eyes, that he's like a different player. We're still all expecting the inevitable Moreno mistake, but we'll give him a chance. He's wearing a red shirt, and we should support any player who's wearing a red shirt. In the midfield, then you had Gini Wijnaldum, you had Jordan Henderson, and you had Emre Can. And up front, you had our 3 pivotal attackers in Mohamed Salah, Roberto Firmino, and Sadio Mane. And the substitute bench today was Karius, Lovren, Milner, Gomez, Sturridge, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Dominic Solanke. Now, we started off kind of as I expected we would, a little bit nervy in the first couple of minutes, and kind of City got a bit of the upper hand. But as we got into the game after a few minutes, we started to threaten a lot more, which I suspected we would. And we did create a lot of chances, but we didn't take them. We were very, very wasteful in front of goal today. Mohamed Salah caused a lot of trouble to Otamendi, who was playing on the left side of a three-man defence for Man City. And he was definitely getting skinned time and again. So we did concentrate a lot of our efforts down that on their left-hand side, our right-hand side. But we wasted the opportunities. We could have made more of them. We did have a lot of opportunities to score in the first 15 or 20 minutes, and even right up until the inevitable happened, which we'll discuss shortly. But as I said, we wasted opportunities, and then it led to what I thought was against the run of play, the first goal of the game. We seem to be well in control, and Man City get a breakaway, and we concede. And it was, it's the inevitable one goal that we concede. I wasn't surprised that we conceded a goal, but I certainly wasn't concerned. I genuinely felt that, we're one down, we can pull this back, because that's what we do. We score goals, and with our attack, I felt that we were going to inevitably pry open the attack, but we didn't, as everybody knows. The situations that we put ourselves in defensively, which is something I'm going to discuss as well, but after the goal was scored, before the goals were scored, there was a couple of situations that presented themselves that, inside of 6 minutes, some of the obvious things that were happening down the right-hand side, as I touched on already, was Otamendi picked up a yellow card for a booking on Mohamed Salah when he put the ball through his legs, and Otamendi just fucking cleaned him out of it. But we weren't threatening enough in those situations. The free kicks were poor. We had a corner almost very early on, and it was dealt with relatively straightforward. But as I said, the inevitable happened. Actually, there was a booking also for Trent Alexander-Arnold on 19 minutes. You'll pick up yellow cards. I wouldn't be too overly concerned about that. It's a long season. What I did notice in the game was Kevin De Bruyne started to come more and more into it, and he was very, very influential. And he was basically the pivotal guy for the goal. He got the assist for Sergio Aguero to put them 1-0 up. That was after 24 minutes. And then on 28 minutes, Fernandinho picked up a yellow card as well for a foul. But Emre Can missed the free kick. He put it well wide of the goal, which I was a bit concerned about. We had players on the pitch that I thought, the likes of Alexander-Arnold and Moreno, who could hit a free kick. I don't remember Emre Can being an aficionado of free kicks. But as I said, we did threaten even after the goal was conceded. We did threaten, and I genuinely. As I said already, I wasn't worried that we would concede, or not that we wouldn't concede. I knew we would concede. It was kind of half inevitable that we would concede, because that's what we do, But I had no fear of us getting back into the match. I genuinely felt that we had enough up front, and the signs were there that we were going to be able to get back into the game. But as I said already, the inevitable happened on the 37th minute, when Sadio Mane went for what I class as a 50-50 ball. And I think, had he not made contact with the Man City goalkeeper, Ederson, couldn't think of his name there, I had a mental block, with the Man City goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper gone down, I think the decision might have been somewhat different. But Jonathan Moss, the referee, decided that there was enough contact in it to warrant Mane getting a red card. Now, it was a 50-50 challenge, and I know the guys on Sky Sports agreed that it was a red card. I didn't think it was a red card. even at first glance, I didn't think it was a red card. Even after all the replays, I didn't think it was a red card. It was a fair, it was a challenge 50-50 between two players. Mane didn't even see him coming. I'm sure he saw him in his peripheral vision, but as far as he was concerned, he was full pace going to try to get the ball. So he didn't go into that tackle with the intention of kicking him in the head. I don't think it warranted a red card. I think it warranted a yellow card. You had a situation where Seamus Coleman when playing for Wales against Ireland towards the end of last season, where Seamus Coleman had his leg broken. I can't remember which of the Welsh players it was, but he had his leg broken in two places, and it was obvious that he had a broken leg, and that the challenge was nasty. Feet were off the ground, and and yet he got away with a yellow card. Whereas I know it's a different competition, but the rules are the rules, and I know the Premier League rules for sendings off may be slightly different to the FIFA rules, but the game is played in the same spirit, and as was pointed out during the commentary or during the analysis of the aftermatch analysis today, was that Moss actually was reaching for his right hand pocket where his yellow card would have been. And I think fair enough, he could have given him a yellow card as a warning. He genuinely did not go into that tackle with an intent to injure or to hurt. I keep forgetting the goalkeeper's name. Ederson is a new young lad that came in from some team in Belgium. I can't remember exactly where he came from. But Moss, he went for his right pocket first, which was yellow card. And I didn't see this in the play of the match because, as I said, I was updating the Facebook page as well with the live updates as to what was going on in the match. But when I saw the replays after the analysis after the match, it did show that he reached for his right-hand pocket first for his yellow card, and then he reached for his red. Now, Colo Touré and all three panelists on Sky Sports, Colo Touré, Thierry Henry, and Jimmy Carragher, did agree that it was a red card. They did agree that it was a harsh red card, but they said it was still a red card at the end of the day. Now, I know they're three football analysts. They should know what they're talking about, but I do disagree with them because of the way they actually justified what happened. Firstly, Sadio Mane did not go in there with the intention to cause any harm. He went in there, he was looking at the ball. I know that doesn't wash as much nowadays as it did 15 years ago, but he went in with an intention of getting the ball. The same way he would go in with any defender or anything else. His intention is to get the ball. I think the referee's decision was certainly influenced more by what went on after the tackle than the actual tackle, because you had men surround the goalkeeper, the Man City players surround the goalkeeper. You had Man City players gesticulating to show the high kick, and you had a player lying on the ground in obvious distress, and fellas around him shouting for the medical team to come on. So I think he got caught up in the moment and he gave a red card when he probably should have just given him a yellow card for it. That was the incident that changed the entire game, and it absolutely destroyed the game, in my opinion. And it's a pity that referees can have such an influence on the direction the game is going, because if that hadn't happened today, I genuinely believe that, I think my prediction for today was that we would get the same result as last year, that we'd finish 1-1. And as I said, I wasn't concerned about a scoring, but the second Mane went off the field, you might as well have sent the rest of the 10 off with them, because basically nothing was done from that point on. It's like we imploded. And, a lot of people said we had no plan B in the transfer window. We looked like we had no plan B today. We can attack and attack only. We can't do anything else. And what happened in the remainder of the game kind of epitomizes what we're a tale of two teams. Do you know what I mean? We're either really, really good or we're terrible. Now there was 8 minutes of time when the keeper was on the ground, and that time was added on. But from the second that the kickoff again, the keeper was replaced, and they brought on Claudio Bravo, the keeper that they signed last year, because of the injury to Ederson, so he didn't play on. But immediately, Man City were on the attack, and we were a team sitting back, basically sucker punched. And, from that point on, the inevitable happened. In the, well, I suppose what was the 51st minute then, but would have been the 45th odd. Man City got their second goal through Gabriel Jesus, or Jesus, whatever way you want to pronounce his name. And yet again, Kevin De Bruyne with the assist. And De Bruyne was interviewed after the match, and he basically said that he knew that Liverpool would play a high line, and then therefore he would be able to get balls in behind the line. And because they played two strikers up front, they were able to pull our defenders out of position, and we conceded like a Sunday League team. As anybody knows, anybody who's seen the match at this point knows that Manchester City scored 5. Now, as I said already, we just capitulated. We just gave up. We rolled over and we let them shaft us. That's pretty much what happened. Shortly after the second half started, and I thought, right, we can still get this back. It's 2-0, we're down to 10 men, but, Klopp will get them in at half time, regroup and maybe make a change in the second half. And he did make a change in the second half, but it wasn't the one that I was expecting, because he put on Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, and he took off Mohamed Salah. Now, I did question the reason Salah was taken off, but I could see what he was doing, because he was changing our shape at the back to go more 3 central defenders. And what he seemed to do was he pulled Emre Can back into the centre of defence alongside Klavan and Matip. And we went with a wing-back system with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Alberto Moreno acting as the wing-backs. And one of the things that hit me early on in that defence, and, Klavan, he was bought as a backup defender, and that's what he is. And he showed it today, because one thing I noticed about him today, he was playing on the left side of defence. And if you're playing on the left side of defence, you should not allow an attacking player to be on your left side. On your right-hand side. So Klavan was facing out the way, and he was challenging a player, and when he went out for the ball, the player was standing on his right. So he's the left-sided defender who's supposed to be looking after everything from that left side up to his opponent or his compatriot Matip. But yet, the Man City player, I can't remember who it was, but the Man City player was actually inside him on the right-hand side. So, if you can't get basic stuff like that right, it's no surprise that we conceded 5 goals today. As I said, Chamberlain got a baptism of fire today. Really, I'm sure it wasn't the debut he expected to get. But, shortly after he came on, Man City had their third goal. Gabriel Jesus got a second of the game. And this time it was Aguero with the assist. But, and at that point, they had just had a goal ruled out for offside as well. So they had 5 goals. The ball was in the net 7 times. And 2 of the goals were ruled out for offside, which is just unforgivable. At that point, just after the goal, Man City made a substitution. They brought on Sané, and he replaced the goal scorer, Gabriel Jesus. The substitution then from Liverpool about a minute later was James Milner came on to replace Georginio Wijnaldum, who I have to say might as well have stayed at home with Phil Coutinho today for all he did, because he was absolutely atrocious. And the way we played in the second half, we basically sat back and allowed Man City to have the ball and allowed them to pass it over and back, and we just sat there and did nothing for the entire second half. And some of the stats on the possession for the overall possession of the match is that Man City had 66% of the possession and 34% of Liverpool. A team that normally Liverpool would have the higher possession. Shots 13. Man City had 13 and we had 7. And Man City had 10 shots on goal, 7 of which ended up in the back of the net. And to our 3. And we hadn't a single shot on target in the second half. So that's a stat in itself that should tell you exactly how the game went, even without looking at the score. Man City had 8 corners, we had 3, and they committed 10 fouls to our 9. Look, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. At that point, it was 3-0. And at 3-0, it looked like kind of a damage limitation. Let's keep it to what we have. Don't concede anymore. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case. Roberto Firmino was taken off. And I have to say, Roberto Firmino was one of the few players out there today that was actually trying. He tracked back. If he lost the ball, he came back and he won it back on more than one occasion. You certainly can't question his commitment. But in the 67th minute, he was replaced by Dominic Solanke. What does an academy youngster have to offer in that situation? No more than throwing Oxlade-Chamberlain in his debut. I really don't expect Dominic Solanke, a kid, 19-year-old, to be able to contribute at 3-0 down. It was, as I said, it was damage limitation at that point. And City piled on the pressure. They took off Otamendi, the obvious problem at the left back, but he was switched over to the right side of defence in the second half. So, as I said, he probably wasn't even tested in the second half because we didn't have a shot on target. The 77th minute then, City got their fourth goal. Leroy Sané with a second. Leroy Sané, that was his first goal, wasn't it? Or his second goal? No, Sané's. Anyways, it doesn't matter. At that point, he was assisted by Mendy. Emre Can then picked up a booking in the 18th minute. At that point, we were a shambles anyways, but there was a lot of fouls given away at the back. Joan Matip gave away a few fouls. Kevin De Bruyne, he was winning free kicks as well. And then the final icing on the cake was Leroy Sané's second goal. Sorry, he scored the final goal in injury time. It was coming. And the thing was, if you looked at the last 25 minutes, the last 45 minutes of the game, City were cruising. They were just coasting. They were playing the ball over and back, nice little triangular passes, holding onto the ball, drawing us out, and then working the ball in. And it seemed they scored 5 goals, could have scored a hell of a lot more. Mignolet did pulled off a very, very good save towards the end of the game where it looked like Aguero had got another goal, but Mignolet was able to get down and stop it. But our defence today, they just switched off, and as successful as our transfer window was, we didn't address the glaring problems that we have at the back, and it was proven today. Not only the fact that we don't have a plan B, but the fact that we don't have a defence that's capable of going up against the likes of Man City. And we just switched off. We genuinely just switched off. Now, there are a couple of interviews from today's match, and I'm going to play them. The first one is Jurgen Klopp's after-match interview, and I just play this and you can hear what he had to say.
What do you think it was to the outcome of things?
Well, when I was a game changer today. That's not. I don't like to say it. It's not that I think I have a red card. It was that, but I think it was obvious today. So we were in the first half not perfect, but we were good enough to create more chances than the opponent. They had 2 yellow cards on the 18-yard line, so a footstep more, and it's 2 penalties. We had more alone in front of we were 5 times in the box for a pass, didn't find it. That's all. Was not perfect, but was good enough. Concede a goal. I know what people will say, but it's about we bring side under pressure with them. Here's the long ball, then we don't push up, and then it's one header, maybe a little foul on Gini, and then the ball is through. And so if we push up, 2 players are in offside, but we don't push up, so nobody's in offside. It's a 1 versus goalie situation. Second goal, again, we need to push up, then it's offside, easy. So these goals were our responsibility, nobody else. But of course, the red card changed all, because it's the worst place to play with 1 player less. And so today we got a nice lesson.
Yeah, is that what it has to be in a game like this, a situation like this? It's been a bad day, you have to take something from it, learn the lessons and take it forward like that as a coach, as a player?
We have a lot of things to learn from this game, and I was really angry in the half time. Angry, not because of the result, but because I didn't see that the boys saw we could have smashed them. If we had 100%, It's not important. It's not important anymore. We've lost 5-0 and it sounds crazy, I know. But in the first half, we didn't play like we wanted to play, but on 60-70%. It's sometimes possible after international break, different plans, different positions, what they played all over the world. I don't like this, but we cannot change it. So, and you saw also, City struggled also a little bit. And we had then these clear moments, and it's one goal, come on, forget it can happen. And then red card, and that gave them the boost. You saw we had to, oh my God, everybody knows it's a bad place to be one man down. And we could see this, so we tried to drop a little bit deeper, but makes completely no sense. Yes, we have a lot of things to learn from today. The problem is, today we cannot change it.
And there you have it from Jurgen Klopp. You can even hear in his interview that he mentioned about us dropping deep, and it's the way listening to him in his interview, it's obvious he didn't tell them to drop deep. It's just something that happened. I have a couple of questions. Andy Green, thanks for listening. Andy's asked in the chat. He wants to know why Robinson was not on the team, and also he said he would have left Salah on and taken off Firmino, who was having an off day. And Klavan and defence are a joke, which should have been sorted during the transfer window. I do agree with you there. I know Klopp said he was going to rotate, and he seems to have an awful lot of faith in Alberto Moreno, which I don't understand, because I think he's done enough in his career at Liverpool to prove that he's not up to the job. People are singing his praises because he had a couple of good games. He has a lot to make up for. He used to have a hell of a lot more good games in order to make up for some of the bad ones that he had. Just in terms of Salah, Firmino did have an off game, but he did contribute a lot in the game. As I said, he's fantastic at coming back and retrieving the ball. He didn't do much up front. I do agree with you in that regard, but his work rate is always good, regardless of whether he scores or not. Klavan, yes, I do agree, and it's not that I want to criticise players. I really don't. Like, Klavan was bought as a backup left back or a backup centre back, and that's what he is. When you have to start him away from home against the possible and probable league champions, you want to be putting your strongest team out. And I just didn't think he was that option today. And the other question you said about the defence is a problem, and a major problem, and I think it's something that needs to be addressed in January. Now, I know historically we don't have much of a track record of doing any business in January, but I think it's imperative that we do it this January, because the problems are there for all to see. They have been there for all of last season, and they haven't been addressed. So I think it's something that definitely needs to be looked at. And he also mentions the fact that Wijnaldum has one good game and then becomes extinct in others, and that's what I said. He basically wasn't there today. And look at Wijnaldum can have a cracking game and then he goes missing, but we kind of knew that, because even the Newcastle fans, they were a bit surprised that we were buying him at the time, but the Newcastle fans were saying that he does tend to go missing for games and whole games, and we kind of knew what we were buying, and he hasn't proved to be anything otherwise. As I said, he didn't contribute to today's game whatsoever. And the defence, we don't have any. Shocking. They've had enough time to sort it out. I do agree with that. And he also said that he didn't think it was a red card either. There was no intent by Mane. Yes, his boot was high, but the keeper dropped his head down. I do agree with that too. The keeper did drop his head down to go for the ball. But regardless of what the other player did, he went into that tackle knowing that there was a risk of getting injured. Neither player pulled out. Firstly, I think because Mane really didn't realise how close he was. He was more intent on getting the ball. That all happens in a split second if you look at it too. Like, Mane is jumping, his leg is up. There's not really a lot he can do to come out of that tackle. And you know yourself, anybody who's played football will tell you, if you pull out of a tackle, you'll tend to get more injured. So that's the intent there. But certainly, I definitely do not think it was a red card. I think it was a yellow card was probably warranted. But because it wasn't a malicious tackle, there's no way a red card is warranted in that situation. And as I mentioned already, it decided the match once that red card was issued. And you could see he was absolutely devastated going off the pitch. Absolutely devastated. He got a lot of abuse from the Man City fans as well, which I think he took quite well, because he just smiled and walked down the tunnel. If it was, I think it was Luis Suarez. I think a middle finger may have been extended at some point. Yeah, I did. That's something that I did mention, Andy. Actually, and Andy is reiterating it here. Is that the reaction of the players, of City players, got him sent off? And look, I don't blame them for that either, because we would have done the same thing had it been our end, and I'm sure we'd be saying that the red card was justified. You know, um, I feel it wasn't justified. I don't feel it was a red card. I feel it was a yellow card, and because it was such a huge game, the impact that it had on the remainder of the game was just, I'm disappointed with the result. I'm more disappointed, and this is going to sound like, your parents will tell you that they're not angry, they're just upset. I'm more upset and annoyed at the fact that the other 10 players never showed. Like, we lost one man. We had a left winger sent off, but we still had 4 defenders on the pitch who conceded 5 goals, and actually conceded 7. If you look at it with the offsides, I know that the goals are ruled out, but it just proves the amount of opportunities we had. Like, a left winger getting sent off shouldn't affect our defence or our midfield, because we still had holding midfielders there who could do the job. Firmino, we don't have an out-and-out striker, so Firmino drops into the midfield anyways. So it shouldn't really have affected our game plan too much. I know they had 11 players on the pitch, and it was making it a little bit more difficult for us to play our type of game. And that's what was crowding us out when we were going back up. But we played into their hands stupidly as well by giving them the ball back. Like, there was one cycle of good play in the second half. We were 3-0 down at this point, and we took the ball from the back and we played it up the field, and we actually got it. We didn't get it. It wasn't on target, but we had an opportunity. And I thought to myself, where has this team all of a sudden come out of? That they're capable of doing something like this, but yet 2 or 3 minutes ago they were hoofing the ball up the field and kicking it out for a throw-in. And, it was just pure. It's like none of them wanted to commit to trying to recover. It's just that they had given up. They'd just lay down and turned over and said, "This is Man City away from home, or screwed." There was no fight in them whatsoever. You often see situations where 10-man teams play better in the second half, or play better once they lose a man. And they are dangerous, because it's like a wounded animal that, a 10-man team can sometimes do more damage than an 11-man team. But that wasn't our case today. Not one of the players stepped up. And I used to be, I'm not criticizing Jordan Henderson or anything. But I think he's a weak captain. He's not strong enough. Steven Gerrard was a lot more influential. I know he's a lot different player, but I don't think Jordan Henderson is a strong enough captain. And his performances so far this season have not been what you would expect from a captain. I think it was very, very disappointing today. We had a situation today where we were going forward, and I noticed him doing this a couple of times. And he actually, because we need to break at pace, it's important that we keep forward momentum. And the ball got to Jordan Henderson in the midfield, and as he was running forward, he played the ball back to Joel Matip behind as we were moving forward. It completely deadened our attack, and he did that a few times today. And I don't understand the logic behind it. Why playing ball backwards when you're going forward? He had plenty of men around him that he could have passed the ball to. I'm just annoyed after today's performance. I just thought it was weak. It was just basically, once the red card was issued, we just gave up. Andy wants to know, do I think Klopp should have played Coutinho would have been an away from home rather than playing him at Anfield because of the flack he might receive? That is a good question. I think, and Jamie Carragher touched on it, and I mentioned on it earlier on today, he was talking about Lovren was rested for today's game because of the games he played. He should have started. Lovren should have started. Contrary to what you think about Lovren, if you're going away from home to the potential champions, you bring your best team. Now, I know we have a Champions League game next Tuesday night, and that certainly should be the priority. But that again goes back to our squad depth, that we don't have the players capable of playing in multiple competitions. And I know he wants to rotate, but, I think you're probably right in the point that Coutinho should have got some game time today, where he would have got, I would have started him. to be honest with you, because he's the type of player that can make such an impact. Like if he was on the pitch in the first 15 or 20 minutes, I'd say there's a good probability that we could have scored. Because, he probably would have started in place of maybe Wijnaldum, who contributed nothing. So it might have been a different game had he started. I can understand his reasons for not starting him. I'm sure partly disciplinary because of his behaviour. But I think a large part of it has to do with the fact that he's just not fit. And maybe throwing him in against Man City probably mightn't have been the ideal spot for him to come in. But as you said, it would have got him in front of the fans away from Anfield and might have softened the blow a little bit, And as you said, he always scores against City, which he does. But when you have Aguero, who always scores against us, and he causes a lot of problems today, I was disappointed. I really was disappointed with the performance today. I just thought they had no fight. They just rolled over, and as I said, they gave up. I was sitting at halftime. I was sitting watching the kickoff to the second half, and I was giving live updates on our Facebook page as well, which I always try and do, because we don't do live feeds anymore. Unfortunately, Facebook have given us a couple of warnings about doing live streams of the match. Somebody, I think, may have reported us, and they've been watching us very closely since, and we've been threatened that they told that the page would be deleted on us. And we've posted videos as well from other pages, Liverpool related content. We got a warning for that too. So we have to keep our nose clean in terms of Facebook. So that's why I post the updates on the page. But I was sitting watching the game and doing the updates and saying to myself, why am I even bothering with these updates? Like, if I wasn't updating the page, I probably would have gone and maybe cut the garden or done something, because I just, I was so pissed off at that point. I just said to myself, what's the point? But I did. I soldiered on, and I continued to provide the updates, as painful as it was. You could probably tell, if you went back through the page, you could probably tell how pissed off I was, because there was no enthusiasm whatsoever in anything that I was posting. It was just automatic, and that was it. But I have an interview as well from Gini Wijnaldum. So I suppose you can play that, and after that I was kind of give my final thoughts on the match. So just have a listen to this.
Yeah, difficult afternoon today. How crucial was the sending off of Sadio in the first half?
If you look back at the game now, it was really crucial because they scored the first goal with 11 men, but I think we still create chances with the speed of Sadio and Mo. It was really difficult for them to defend us, and you have to change the way of playing if one man send off with a red card.
Yeah, I guess people will argue whether it should have been a red or not, the rights and wrongs of it, but I guess any player in that situation will do what Sadio did, looking at the ball, you'll try and get it.
Yeah, it can go both ways. From what I see on the replays, that Sadio was looking the ball. I think he didn't even know that the keeper was that close to him, and it was just unlucky. But the ref make a decision, and you have to deal with it.
Yeah, of course, we all wish Edison well, though, because obviously he ends up with it.
Yes, of course. You're rivals from each other, but you never wish someone a bad injury. So we wish him a speedy recovery.
Just overall in the game today, is this one of those games where you have to try and learn from the experience? Because playing against a very good Manchester City side without a man for over half of the game is a tough task.
Yeah, it's a really tough task, and we have to learn from this, because you never know when it's going to happen again. And as football player, he hopes it never happen again. But things can happen in a game, and we must make sure that if it happens again, that we do it better with 10 men than we did today. And of course, City is a good team with good players, but I think we could have done better with 10 men.
Finally, I guess it'll hurt for a day or two now, but the good thing is, I guess, we have a huge game to look forward to on Wednesday to put this one to one side.
Yeah, of course. You have to look further, but we still have to learn from this, what I just said, that there are plenty of things that we can learn from this game, so we have to learn from that, and then we have to move on.
And as Wijnaldum said, we have to learn from that game and move on, but ask yourself, do we learn anything from that game today? There isn't really. What we learned from it is what we already knew. is that our defence is just not good enough. I know we were playing, as I said, the potential champions away from home, but the mistakes, we made mistakes today that we've made previous. It's not something new. And I'm just going back through the comments on the Facebook page. One of the comments that was put on the comment that I put up after Man City scored the second goal. Tiernan Rogan said our defence isn't helping the situation. Carl Burden said the second goal was purely down to defensive ineptitude. Excuse me. And Jared Cronin said the referee was right to send off Mane. Look at people. Football is about opinions, and I respect that opinion. Um, I just don't happen to agree with it. Sam De Bono, he said that's what happens when you worry about your net spend. We won't make top four with the defence we've got. Good job, FSG, and let's stop with the bullshit about us chasing Van Dijk. They should have moved to the next target. Have a backup plan. Our defence been a liability for a long time, and besides that, we sold Sacco. He must be laughing his ass off. Yeah, that is something that is a lot of bone of contention with a lot of fans, and I kind of tend to agree with it too, is the fact that we sold potentially the second best defender at the club. I know that there's been disciplinary issues there, but he's done nothing kind of worse than Coutinho did. But look, that's a debate for another day. Andy Green says, I agree with everything you say, John. Just hope it's a bad day at the office, and it's going to be a bad year at the office for our defence. Yeah, it does need addressing. I just see that another couple of comments here. I put up a comment to say that Ederson was taken to hospital with possible fractures to his jaw. And John Gerrard said he was in the audience at the end of the game with just scratches. I seen a cat do more damage. He did come out towards the end of the game, but Martin Tyler did say kind of a few minutes after the injury happened that he was in the dressing room and that there was no concussion. And that they were going to take him to a local private hospital just to have him assessed for suspected fracture to his jaw and to his cheekbone. So that was where that comment came from. But luckily enough, he did make an appearance towards the end of the game. He came out from the tunnel and sat down and watched the last couple of minutes of the game. I'm sure he enjoyed the last few minutes of it, but look, he didn't look any the worse for wear. I think probably Mane was more hurt than he was. But yeah, that's pretty much it. There isn't really a lot else to say about today's match. I've given you the stats. 66% possession to our 34%, 13 shots from City to our 7, 10 shots on target to our 3, 8 corners to our 3, and 10 fouls to our 9. It's a pity that Mane was sent off. It is unfortunate, and I hope it doesn't affect him too much. I think the 3 games, he's probably going to get a 3-match suspension. It's an automatic 3-match suspension, I think, when you get a red card. So he's going to miss the games against Burnley, Leicester, and Newcastle, I think. That is unless, I can't remember, does the League Cup game count as a game? If it does, we've back-to-back games against Leicester. I think we would play them in the league and then we play them in the League Cup before we play Newcastle United. There are 2 sides to that debate. He could have missed 3 worse games, I suppose, when you look at it. But then again, they are the type of teams we tend to struggle against, Leicester City aside, but Burnley and Newcastle. Because of our Jekyll and Hyde performances against the top teams and the lower teams, we need every man we can get. But I can't see the decision being appealed either for the red card. And Klopp did say in his interview to Sky Sports that he was very close to being sent to the stands himself because the referee did come over while Emerson was getting treated and basically talk to Klopp. And it looked like he was explaining to him why he sent him off. And he probably did. But he must have told him during that time that he would send him to the stands. So, Klopp did get the risk of being sent off. So it's been a strange sort of a day, But a lot of people were saying that Jonathan Moss, he's not a Premier League referee. There have been complaints about him before. And other people were saying, well, look, he's a former footballer himself, so he should know. what's kind of warrants a red card and what doesn't. So look, there's two sides to the argument. I'm sure every non-Liverpool fan is saying it's a red card, get over it, while the majority of Liverpool fans are probably saying it wasn't a red card. As I said, football is about opinions and everybody's entitled to one. There is no wrong or right. The referee made the decision, sent him off. It affected the other 10 men on our team who, as I said already, probably looked like they had got sent off as well because there was no fight whatsoever in our team from today. But look, we move on. We have a Champions League game against Sevilla on Tuesday night. I just hope we can do better there than we did today. It's not the worst loss in the world if you put things into perspective, like how many teams go to the Etihad expecting to come away with anything. So, if we're going to lose a game, well then losing a game at the Etihad isn't the worst one to lose. So, that's another way to put it into perspective. But as it stands, we have 7 points from 4 games. It is what it is. We move on, we pick ourselves up, and we move on for Tuesday night. That's pretty much it from me. I was only intending on doing a short review, but to hell with it. I'm here on my own, so I'm only going to be talking to myself otherwise. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/TalkLFC Podcast. Follow us on Twitter as well, @TalkLFC Podcast. And if you want to get involved in the podcast, send us your emails, your messages on Facebook. We will read them out. If anybody is interested and wants to come on and discuss anything on a future podcast, you're more than welcome. All you need is Skype, and that's how we interact on the show. We're also on the lookout for admin, anybody who feels they can contribute to the page, to post articles and get involved generally with the podcast. We'd be more than happy to have people come along if they feel they can contribute something. So that's pretty much it from me. There isn't really much else to say. As I said, follow us on our Facebook page. Give us a like on Spreaker as well, and please share these posts. Andy, thanks for listening and commenting in the chat. It's nice that I had somebody to keep me company here, that I didn't feel like I was just ranting away to myself. I had intended on ranting, but just the wind is knocked out of me at this stage. I just couldn't be bothered, But as I said, it is what it is. We move on. Next up is Sevilla on Tuesday night in the Champions League, and let's hope we put in a better performance than we did today. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for listening to Talk LFC Podcast. Be sure to follow us at facebook.com/Talk LFC Podcast and on Twitter at twitter.com/Talk LFC Podcast. Get in touch with us by email at talklfcpodcast@gmail.com or via our website at www.talklfcpodcast.com.